Welcome to Co-op Mode, round 73. This is the official video game podcast of Secret Friends Unite. I am Todd Oxtra, your host, joined by my favorite co-host in all the land, Mark the Canadian Carabin, chillin' like a villain on the Canadian coast. How are you doing, bud?
I think for October, I have to legally change my last name to Scarabin. But otherwise, I'm doing pretty good. Yeah.
I guess it would be Odd Oxtra. I don't know. Odd, is
like
that scary enough?
That. Yeah. Yes. Yeah. No, I'm good, man. How are you?
Pretty good. It's been we're right in the middle of Shocktober, as we call it on Secret Friends Unite. If you're watching on the video right now, you're seeing my new shirt that was based on a Facebook ad that I thought would never arrive from China. Came right in time, right in the middle of the month. So by all means, check out Facebook video for just this shirt.
Spectacular. Yeah.
Oh, yeah, it's so spooky. But we are joined by another person who I'm just going to make up his name. It's going to be Joey Ferris.
Oh, I like it.
I was thinking that. So there you go. That was perfect. Thank you. I was hoping, please say Scaris. Please say Scaris. There's actually a villain. There's a boss in Metroid Fusion named Ferris, who's literally my last name, but with an S instead of an F. So for a day, I changed it to Joey Ferris. But I'm like, this is going to be confusing to people who watched my Metroid Fusion review. So I'm just going to change it back real quick.
That is perfect. I'm glad we're on the same wavelength. Spooky time. Joey, tell people who may not know you, tell everybody a little bit about you, your background, and what you're doing these days.
For one, thanks for having me on this show. I'm finally glad to be here. I've known Mark for a long time. I've known you for a little bit, Todd, but not as much as Mark. Mark and I chat on Facebook every now and then. Yeah, way back. So I'm glad to be here. I'm working at Game Explain as a news and features editor is the official title for the job, but I do a mix of things here and there. I do some guides as well. I did a big guide, 100% guide for Metroid Dread. So I've pretty much been the Metroid guy at Game Explain since before even Metroid Dread was out. But then when Dread was out, that just was the perfect opportunity to throw in retro reviews of Super Metroid Fusion. I never did Metroid Zero Mission, but actually I wasn't even originally going to do Super Metroid until my boss Andre said, "Hey, I saw you beat Super Metroid. Wink, wink, nudge, nudge." And I'm like, "Fine, I'll do it." So that was just cool.
I think that explanation kind of undersells you because you said that you are the Metroid guy at Game Explain. Mm-hmm. And I don't think you needed the at Game Explain because to me, if I hear something Metroid, I'm like, oh, Joey's going to love this. So you're just the Metroid guy. You love this series and you love this franchise. And when the new game came out and I saw your review, your timeline explanation for the Metroid series, which was phenomenal, by the way. If you're watching this on YouTube, pause this video, go watch that one, then come back because it's that good. But you're, to me, just the Metroid guy. So I'm so happy to have you on in general, but also just for this episode where we're going to be talking about Dread. You're Mr. Metroid to me.
Oh, thanks. Yeah. I mean, I'm not wearing a Metroid shirt today, regrettably, but
it's a great shirt though.
Yeah, I love DC, but man, actually I did buy a Metroid shirt recently. I forgot on what website, but then it got messed up in the wash. So all the stuff's peeling off. So I'm like, well, thanks. So now I gotta, they're selling official Metroid Dread shirts in my really weird t-shirt size now. So there you go. I'm a 3XL because I'm really tall. So that's why. But yeah, thanks for that. I appreciate being known as Mr. Metroid. I really feel like after seeing some people though post their Metroid collections, I'm like, I gotta step up because I know of people rather, they'll post photos of they got 7 cardboard cutouts of Samus and maybe even Silex for some reason. And I'm like, you see, I can't claim I'm the hugest Metroid fan, but I'll take it.
It's knowledge. Knowledge is what it matters when we are talking about Metroid.
That's it.
It's all about knowledge.
And passion. It's the passion for me.
It's the passion, I feel. Yeah. I still haven't even taken down my special edition because I set that up for a discussion or when I got it. My Dread special edition came in late, right? But I already had the game review code anyway, so I wasn't too upset. But I managed to get the amiibos, so yeah.
Nice.
In case you didn't know, I love Metroid a lot.
I will ask, did you guys get the posters for Metroid Dread from Nintendo Rewards?
Nope.
No.
I did. So
Ooh, nice.
look for it there. I also picked up that.
The big Metroid
becoming
fan
Mr.
here
Metroid,
now.
yeah.
You've heard it here first.
Well,
There you go.
I also have. Let me pull it out right now. Oh god, that sounds sexual, but Nintendo
Pull it
Force. Nintendo Force.
I got
Just had
two,
their
yeah.
latest. You got the Nintendo Force issue, Mark? Did you get it?
Oh, yeah.
No, that's great.
Okay. Nintendo Force is a great magazine.
All right.
Yeah, that's
Fantastic.
great.
Oh,
I
well.
regrettably have not taken the time to really read an issue, but they make great collector's items.
Oh, they're fantastic. Yeah, so this is going to be a very fun episode. I am not a good Metroid player. I've never beat one before. I know, horrible guy, but I like playing them. I'm just not a great finisher when it comes to Metroid, but I really love the series. Probably one of my favorite series from Nintendo, just the way they are. So we're going to talk more about that. But, Joey, we want to get to know you a little bit better through a fun game we play, Buy, Rent, Return. It's spooky version this time. So just like when you were a kid and you went to Blockbuster, you looked around what games you wanted. One game you like so much they end up buying. One game you're like, I finished it, I'm returning it. Or you bring it back, you've rented it. One game you returned because it was horrible. It was like the game your grandma would rent for you. Like Lee Trevino's Fighting Golf. Nobody wants that game. So this week we're doing video game spooky enemies. Okay. You have to buy, rent, return these spooky enemies. We're going to do vampires like Castlevania, Dracula, zombies, and aliens.
Ooh.
Okay. All right. So for me, I would buy the aliens. I would. This is a tricky one. I'd rent the vampires and return the zombies. And this is like gun to my head thing. I like all three for different reasons, right? But for this case, I would just like, for one, I love the aliens because, Metroid, but I also just love sci-fi games in general, especially when they're, good. But then there's the vampires who, there's a lot of vampire games, sure, but zombies, they're everywhere. There's too much of them. I'm kind of just like, I will take a good zombie game. Like I'm excited for Dying Light and whatnot. But if gun to my head, I had to return one of them, and of course, it would just have to be the zombies.
And Mark, it's not aliens this series, but any alien. So it can be a star. It could be a Yoda. Could be a villain if you want him to be one.
Okay, so I need to ask a clarifying question with this one. Is this specifically aliens in spooky games, or like games that are supposed to scare me? Because because if this is just aliens in general, then we're counting like funny alien games or like Star Wars games or other things like that. So because like aliens, I think would be top choice if it's just games in general. But then if it's like spooky games, I think maybe zombies or vampires would top that. So Todd, can I get a little clarification before I make my picks?
For this discussion, I would say scary games, just because we're in that genre this month. Mark might change next month in November when it's less scary.
All right, so I'm gonna go with zombies for my buy, because zombie games I think have caused me more stress and jump scare anxiety than the other like I love Castlevania games. I've been playing through the Advanced Collection, like I said a couple of weeks ago, and I like that, but it's not going to get my heart rate up. Same thing with like aliens and stuff, and we'll find out a little bit more about that later. So I'm going to buy zombie for like the Resident Evil jump scare kind of stuff, and like House of the Dead, where I just give me a light gun and send me on my way. So like buy zombies, rent vampires, and return aliens, but only for this specific horror genre.
I'm going to put big asterisks on that for Mark.
Yeah. Big asterisk. Because, very different order if it's like games in general. Because I think Alien then shoots right up like Joey.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I wouldn't change my list knowing that now. I still think that's still the same for me. I like it when aliens are... We don't see a lot of sci-fi horror games, I would say, at least nearly as much as like zombies. So, yeah, I'd still rank it up there.
All right, I like it. Todd, do you have a preference for this one?
Sure. Yeah, I'm going to go vampires. I love killing vampires. It's one of my favorite things in the world to do. So I do my weekends. So vampires, they're creepy. They suck your blood. Crosses work. You get so many cool arsenal things to kill them with. The rest are just kind of more generic to kill. I mean, aliens, I don't know, bullet works most of the time, right? Or, a sharp object, maybe.
Not
so I'm going to go with
isolation. That's for sure.
That's true. That's true. Their blood could actually take. Yeah, blood's enough there. I'm going to then rent zombies because they're in so many of the games that I love to kill too. Just so much fun. Basically, they're cannon fodder to a certain extent. They're just everywhere. But they make a lot of genres more fun because, essentially you don't have to even think about that. They're undead. So just kill them. Aliens, less. I think I'm just going to return them because there hasn't been as many scary aliens to me in games. Joey, to your point, there's not as many scary sci-fi. There's a couple, and we're going to talk about that as well. But yeah, I'd say aliens are less scary, even though they're pretty scary. But yeah.
I like it. All right.
Perfect.
So does that vampire love, are we going to be seeing some Todd Blood Rain cosplay for Halloween? Or are we?
Can't wait.
That's next year. Is that
Mark, I wear leather very well.
I can't wait to see that. That's follow us on OnlyFans, Secret Friends Unite.
It's going to be very naughty.
It's good stuff. Good stuff.
Speaking of which, whatever happened to that Xbox exclusive Vampire Reign? Remember that game?
No.
Look it up.
Aren't they also remaking Blood Rain or something? I heard
they remastered it, I think.
Remastered.
Yeah.
No, it's already been remastered?
Yeah, it's already out, I believe. Yeah.
All
it was that more.
What were you saying?
I think I'm trying to remember which one it was because I think there was one that came out a few years ago by Forward. What's that game called? The company called Wait Forward. I think they did a Blood Rain like remake kind of, but it was more cartoonish than realistic. But I don't know. I can't wait. I'll play them all.
Yeah, all I know about Blood Rain is that awful movie, but yeah.
I never saw the movie, but
you don't have to.
Games. Okay.
It's Uwe Boll, Mark. It's Uwe Boll. Yeah.
Yeah.
Uwe Boll.
God, yeah. Never. Yeah. Yeah, I'm not going to bother looking that up. Okay, let's keep going. I was going to start Googling Blood Rain. No,
don't do it. Avoid.
It's not going to happen.
That's a rabbit for YouTube later, Mark. Rabbit hole. Yeah. Go there. Perfect. Well, let's get into what we've been playing, gentlemen. Joey, you're the guest, so what have you been playing?
Well, on my off times, I have been playing. Are we on the spooky games yet, or should we save that for later?
Let's save those.
Save that for later. Okay, cool. Something I haven't been so for non-spooky games, but it is kind of Halloween themed. I've been playing the Arkham games, the Batman Arkham games. Around this, I don't know what it is. Around this time of year, not even just like in October, but like when it starts cooling down a bit, like in September, that sort of range. When I know like the holidays are coming, I get into a Batman centric mood. Like I'm wearing the shirt right now, of course. So I just feel like the Arkham games are some of the greatest Batman media ever created by human hands. So yeah, I started Asylum, and then I moved on to Night. Now I'm not Night City, and then I'm currently on Origins. And man, Arkham Origins gets such a bad rap. That is such an underrated. Yeah, and especially after Arkham Knight came out, I just liked Origins more because Knight was just like, it was still a great game, but it was mostly a tank simulator. That's right.
It became a slog instead of like it should be fun to drive a bat vehicle at all times, and it became such a slog to be like, oh, not another one of these stupid tank missions where I have to do waves of enemies coming at me and just like strafe in a tank for some stupid reason. Like, just move along.
Seriously. And then Deathstroke came in and like, oh, we're going to fight Deathstroke. And he's in a tank. Yeah. Great, guys.
Well, of course he is. He's best known for his tank.
Oh, yes. Totally. Remember the iconic Deathstroke tank? My goodness.
The spider cycle.
Yeah.
Spider-Man needs a slower mode of transportation.
Exactly. But yeah, I've been playing that.
So speaking of that, Joey, DC Fandom was this weekend. Really cool event. This is their year 2. Kind of like everything DC does, movies, TV, whatever. We got some trailers of a couple of those games, and it was surprising because the Justice League, or the Suicide Squad versus the Justice League, is 2022, But the Arkham Knights, or no, Gotham Knights game,
right,
does not have. They didn't show a release date, which is very weird.
They also showed 2022. So I'm thinking,
okay,
are they really about to come out with two very similar, theoretically, DC games in the same year? One of them is getting pushed back, and it's going to be Suicide Squad. That's what I know.
I thought so. That's why I was surprised to not see a 2023 on that one, which was weird. But yeah, that Arkham Knights they showed, Gotham Knights. Man, I'm going to keep going back. They showed the trailer for that. That trailer looks fantastic with the Court of Owls. Oh,
I meant to actually wear my Court of Owls mask when we started recording. I should have. I spotted it earlier, and I was like, I need to get that out of the cabinet and have it on for when we start recording. And I completely forgot because Finn would not go to sleep until late, so I kind of like rushed down to set everything up. So those games are so good, though. Holy crap,
they're so fantastic. Like, and I know we talk crap about Night, but even Night's good. Like, they're all great games, except maybe Arkham Origins Blackgate. I haven't played it, but I heard bad things. So yeah, I'm just really loving those Batman games. And the combat's just, first of all, just the story is great. Voice acting is great. The combat is the reason I come back to those games all the time. It's just so good. Like, I can't think of a better combat system than that.
Absolutely.
Very cool. Anything else, Joey?
Not really. I've been jumping back and forth between two horror games, so I'll talk about that in a bit. But of course, Metroid Dread. Like, I started a fourth playthrough.
Wow.
But I'm not gonna come back to that for a minute. I basically started a fourth playthrough because I needed to make a video about the sequence break. So that's pretty much the only reason why I started a new playthrough. So I'm giving the game a rest for a bit. Like, you can't keep blowing your load like every time a new Metroid game comes out that fast. So
right. You gotta give it a little bit. You don't want to get sick of it. You know, you can't have pizza for breakfast, lunch, and dinner and not be able to, someone says pizza and you're like, ugh, but you don't want to get to that point with pizza. You want to be like, always like, yeah, pizza. Yeah. Right. I get you. I get you. I guess that kind of leads into what Todd and I have been playing, because aside from going back to Smash Brothers for a little bit before the last DLC character comes out, I just wanted to revisit it because I really haven't. I think when I logged in, it gave me you've unlocked 2 other DLC characters. So I was like, ooh, haven't touched this in a bit. But aside from that, I've been basically playing Dread. Todd, have you been playing anything other than Metroid? Games that we'll save for later.
Yes, I have. I forgot to put it in here. So did I already talk about Solitarica?
No.
Okay. So Solitarica is a ton of fun. I got it from the Epic Game Store. They give away their free games. So I had this game for a while, and I'm like, I want to dabble because I like solitaire a lot. I know everybody's grandma likes solitaire. It's it's the first thing when you have your Windows computer, you boot it up and you play solitaire when you're bored. So I played this game, and the best way to describe this game is a Slay the Spire type. Slay the Spire like, I guess is a good way to put it. So it's a card game, but it's solitaire. So everybody knows how to play solitaire. It's a roguelike with RPG elements. And it is very much fun, but it's a roguelike. You have to go all the way through, or you start from the very beginning. But you do get power-ups. You do get you do level up and do different things like that. But it's a very fun game. I found out it was really engaging. It's also it's a mobile game too, so you could get it on the App Store for $4 if you want. They say in-game purchases. I'm not sure what that is. Normally, if you pay $4 and it's a game like that, there would not be any additional elements you have to pay for. But I thought it was great. In the people you're basically fighting a different boss every hand, and the bosses are hilarious, and they have stupid names like Ugly Boss Rabbit or something like that. And it's just silly, but they just have fun. And then they have Mother of Ugly Boss Rabbit, which is like she's mad now because you beat her son. So it's just a goofy game, and I really enjoyed it. But it's something that's just like more of a time killer than anything else. But if you're good at solitaire, which I don't know what it means to be good at solitaire. I mean, it's really a game of chance and making the right decision at a certain point. But it's very fun. So check out Solitarica. It's out there.
I've never played solitaire before, so I wouldn't even know how to play right off the bat. I don't even know how you throw in card RPG roguelite elements into solitaire. That sounds bananas.
Oh, when you're done with the podcast, open up Windows. I think they still include solitaire in it in the game pack or along. I think maybe they call it Spider Solitaire. Try it out. Nothing to lose.
There's a couple of free solitaire games if you have Apple Arcade or anything like that. You can always get solitaire somewhere.
I did get an Apple Arcade gift card because they wanted me to try out this Lego Star Wars game that's on Apple Arcade.
I downloaded that and have not started it yet.
Yeah, I have yet to play it too. Don't tell them.
I really need to. It's like sitting on my iPad, just waiting for me to jump in, and I haven't had time because I've been playing Metroid Dread. So
there we go.
Yeah. So I guess let's just jump into that. If you've not been playing anything else, Todd, is it Solitairica?
Well, unless you call upgrading to Windows 11, that's my other game I've been playing, which was seamless. I'm very happy. It was very quick. It was just like a Windows update rather than a completely refresh, but it's different.
Right.
Yeah, my PC is not compatible with Windows 11, which is weird because I feel like it would be.
That's weird.
That's very strange. I'll have to look into that later.
But
yeah, so Metroid Dread, I think, Mark, both of us play it. Joey, you're a master at this. I know a lot of our members of our community are really into this game too. So they probably want to hear a little bit from everybody, like a beginner, like myself, who's not the greatest player in the world, somebody who's maybe new to the franchise, and then somebody who's an expert. So my son is an expert because he beat the game in 10 hours. Now he's letting me play it,
nice.
Which is fun. So yeah, and did anybody get a Switch OLED?
No, I didn't.
Okay. So we all played it on...
I kind of don't.
Got it. So everybody played it on their busted old Switches, which are horrible. Throw them in the trash,
Yep.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Day one.
So this is the 5th official Metroid game. The Prime 4 is still coming. Still TBD. And we potentially, I've heard rumors about us getting a Prime remaster or the trilogy or something. So, and we did have Samus Returns on the 3DS 3 to 4 years ago, I believe.
Yeah.
So people may not be in the zeitgeist with Metroid because he's been largely unable to play on the Switch. I mean, unless you count Super Metroid or Metroid on the online services, which we'll talk about later. So I will say that I'm probably the novice. I never beat Metroid, never beat Super Metroid, never beat Prime, even though I think I got to the last boss finally, and I just could not beat it. And then, I played the GBA games. I played Hunters, didn't play Pinball.
Pinball was so
I played
good,
Other M.
I have not played Pinball either. I regret
maybe
to say.
I'm Mr. Metroid.
Yeah, I think
you are,
a
Mark.
copy of Pinball upstairs. That's all right.
And the last game people probably played of Metroid was Other M, which is kind of notorious. So so we're kind of in a weird space with Metroid, but I'm getting the feel that this is the beginning of a Metroidnescence.
It's a Metroid Dread-essence. That's what everyone.
There you go. That's easier to say. That's easier to say.
Yeah,
I like that.
Yeah. So I will say I've only beat the first boss, and I am struggling with the game quite a bit. I love Metroidvanias, Ori, those type of games, Shovel Knight. This game for me has been difficult because I feel it's very twitchy. Like you move a little too fast at times, and then when you're aiming, I want to stop myself and aim down, but I'm like, I have to pull the aim trigger to do so because if I keep moving forward, I'm just going to run into the guy and take damage. So I've struggled a bit with that, but I think I'm going to change up my controls. I have these fake Joy-Cons, which I call Pro-Cons, which you can remap the buttons on the back, can make some trigger buttons. So I think I'm going to make those the aim and then the missile button. So I can kind of just do those on the fly rather than use the trigger up top. So I don't know.
Yeah, I didn't like I will say I didn't like the implementation of that. I really wish it was like you said it, where aiming was with the left trigger instead of the left shoulder button, and the missiles were also the right trigger. I thought that was weird, but for me it was easy to get used to. But I've also not only been playing 2D Metroids for like a great amount of time these past few months to prepare for Dread, but I've also watched the Treehouse footage extensively because that is my job, because I have to analyze every little nook and cranny about this game, and I'm so glad I don't have to do that anymore. But anyway, I totally feel you on the controls. It's especially if you're not too familiar with Metroid, or at least as familiar with Metroid as Mark and I are, because it's a very sort of new Metroidvania experience to those who would otherwise be used to Metroidvanias. But the controls, like you said, are very different. The way Samus moves is like, I just still think those controls in Dread are just fantastic. And like, especially compared to going back and playing Super Metroid, which was very floaty, and that's probably part of the reason why you think it's a little too fast, is because like Super Metroid's controls were just freaking slow. Fusion and Zero Mission were a little fast, same with Samus Returns, but yeah, I'm not too surprised you're having a little bit of trouble, because I even saw some of my friends stream the game and they're big Metroid fans. It is pretty, I don't want to say it's super difficult, but it is a process to sort of get to where you need to go to get like an aha moment. I finally have everything figured out. It takes a minute to get used to.
Yeah,
sure. I'm about an hour into it, so I would say, yeah, it's going to be muscle memory. It's going to be all those things, because they do throw a lot of buttons and pushes. Like the one feature they show up is, what is it? The one armor cannon you have to get the Emmy against. So you have to pull one button, you have to charge it, you have to do something. I'm like, this is really complex controls compared to a lot of Metroidvanias, where, like I said, I played Ori, loved that game, beat it to pieces, and that game is fluid. I've loved Shovel Knight. This one does add a lot more complexity into the controls. When you think about Switch 2, for somebody's first Metroid, they're going to be like, whoa, this is a little bit more so than I expected. But I expect to get better, and apparently you can remap the controls in the Switch now. Yep. I didn't realize this, that's something in the main menu. So I guess if you don't like where it is, and that's, I think, where I have to get comfortable with where the buttons are. But I really like it. It's a really beautiful game. But I would say blowing it up on a big TV, its flaws are clear. It does not look as good as on a small screen, because it's blown up. Its colors aren't as vibrant. But I think that's because it's on a Switch. It's very old hardware, and I think if it was on a Series X, that game would blow your socks off. 4K UHD, more textures, things like that. I think the game 1080p on the screen, 720 on screen.
It might be. I didn't watch Digital Foundry's video on this, and they're like my go-to for that. I want to say it's 900p. Maybe. Okay. But I think for that art style, it kind of works for it. And
it does. Yeah. And this is the first time Metroid's been HD too, which I think a lot of people don't even realize. So it's like, that's a really cool thing. So, but overall,
nuts.
I know. It's been. They said what was this the first 2D Metroid game since 2002?
Yeah, first new 2D Metroid. Yeah, like it's even then the 2D Metroids we got between now and then, there's only 2 of them. So this is like still a really new experience.
Yeah.
Very cool. Yeah, I'm really enjoying the experience. I'm early on. My son loved it to pieces. I think he said he would have loved it to be longer. And he said, Dad, I only put 10 hours in, but I don't think they count when you die. Like if you had a failed run, they don't count your run. They don't count your time. It's only when you've continued forward. So I'm like, okay, mine's going to be 10 hours too then.
Yeah, I did a video on that because I wanted to test it out. It's very weird because I think they actually count cutscenes in the time too, which doesn't make any sense to me. Like I timed it, compare one run with cutscenes, one run without. The one with cutscenes, even though it was like the same distance, came out to be like 5 minutes longer. And I'm like, what? You really count the cutscenes in there? Which I guess they're saying like a speedrunner is going to skip the cutscenes anyway. And I'm like, I get that, but did you have to make them count anyway? It's whatever. But yeah, the thing about Metroid games is you got to play them over and over again to really appreciate them, or go for 100%.
Yeah. Yeah. Because it does give you the completion time and completion percentage as well. So you have to collect all the power-ups and the gear and all that kind of stuff. You can't just finish it once and be done with it. And you could technically be happy with like a, 70% completion rate or something like that. But if you, like Joey said, you kind of, they're built to be revisited, and you want to improve your time. And that goes back to the first Metroid game of like, depending on how fast you finished it, you found out that like Samus was a female, or you just finished the game. It's like blowing your mind. So you always want it to speed up and get better endings and that kind of stuff. So, Joey, as someone who's finished it multiple times, is there anything like that we can expect? I'm so close to the end of this game, but I don't know how fast my run is going to be by the time I actually finish it. So is there anything that you've noticed that like different endings for different speeds or anything enticing people to go back that way other than personal pride?
Okay, this kind of spoilery, kind of not. I don't spoil anything about the story. I'm just saying, like, here's what shows up at the end screen, right? I beat the game multiple times expecting, like, maybe Samus will take her helmet off or be in her Zero Suit form, which is what usually happens when you, like, get 100%, when you beat hard mode, stuff like that. I also tried out hard mode. It's really good. She doesn't change at all. The end animation doesn't change at all, which is kind of weird to me. I was like, really? You don't? There's nothing extra here, really?
Yeah, that's strange.
Yeah, what you really get is you get these collectible art pieces, and like it'll show you. I forget what the criteria is, but like they'll have art pieces for like, oh, here's Zero Mission, here's Fusion, here's Super Metroid, to kind of just say this was the journey Samus has been on since the first game. So kind of like an homage to Metroid there. They even put in Other M, which is kind of why people are talking about Other M right now on Twitter, because the game acknowledges Other M's existence, not in the game itself, but on like the menus and stuff. So, but what's really cool is the sequence breaking, and it's just like, even if you look up how to sequence break, it's still really rewarding to do that, because there's a moment in Kraid's boss battle, right, when if you get the morph ball bombs early, I won't go into detail on how to do it. It's a process, not a hugely complicated one, but it's a process. You unlock a new animation that like there's a wall and there's a bomb slot like right there, and you go into that bomb slot. It's hidden, so you have to bomb the wall to see it, and then it triggers a cannon that fires the morph ball into Kraid's belly, and then you just keep spamming bombs in there.
Oh, that's so badass.
Whoa.
Yep, the game literally says, hey, sequence breaking ain't illegal. Go nuts.
Whoa, that's crazy.
It's so wild, dude.
So I'm going to ask a newbie question.
Okay.
What is sequence breaking? Because what are you talking about?
Yeah, that's a good point. A lot of people don't know what sequence breaking is. It's when you get items out of order, basically.
Okay.
So in Metroid games and most Metroidvanias, it's like you start out, okay, and here's what the items you got to get in order. Like, you got to get the morph ball, got to get the missiles, got to get this in that order, but then you find a way to sequence break, and that usually it requires doing either glitching the game sometimes or like finding out another way. I remember in Super Metroid there was a way to get, I don't know if it was the grapple beam or the wave beam, I forget. There's a way to get one of those beams early by just wall jumping up a single wall, because you could do that in Super Metroid. You can't do it in Dread, but yeah, you would normally have to get that item by grapple beam swinging across a gap, but you could just go to the bottom of the gap and wall jump all the way up there. So that's what's essentially what sequence breaking is. Metroid Prime has another one where you can use the ship's anti-grav feature to propel yourself onto another platform and get the space jump boots early, I believe it is, or the gravity suit, one of those two. So yeah, it's a favorite among speedrunners, and I don't know if Nintendo's really frowned upon it, because they actually did remove that sequence break in the Metroid Prime trilogy version of Metroid Prime. But here in Dread, they actually like intend you to sequence break. Like, you don't have to at all, but the fact that they included like a secret way to kill Kraid was like, whoa.
Like, someone animated that, like, with the specific idea that was going to happen. That's wild. That is blowing my mind right now.
Yeah, it's
That's
really
so
cool.
I've got to imagine that Mercury Steam, who was brought on, they did Samus Returns. They actually did a Castlevania game. It was
they did a few of them.
Yeah, so which is pretty cool. And so you got to imagine maybe these are people that are such huge fans of the genre, love that type of thing. They're like, we've got to put this in. This is our opportunity. And maybe they just were basically told, yeah, sure, why not? Have fun with it. I don't know. That's kind of interesting thought about, where you can have someone who grew up doing that maybe now is making the games that can take advantage of that. That's very cool.
That's awesome.
It's really awesome.
I'm not quite at the sequence breaking level right now. Although I did find something today that it was like, you haven't unlocked this ability or this power up or something like that. Like I found this was like one of the secret little like power up boosters or whatever. I thought it was like a missile tank or a health tank or something, but it looked a little different. So I spent some time trying to get that. And then the message that popped up was like, yeah, not yet, but it still let me collect it. So I have no idea what I'm actually doing.
It's a power bomb. I will spoil that for you.
Okay. All right. Power bomb. Cool.
Yeah. So they don't hide those very well. I'll tell you that.
Yeah, no.
I collected a few of those before I got the power bomb.
Yeah. It was just right there. And it just took me 2 seconds to like, it was just like pulling down the little thing. So I had to like bomb a couple of things and then missile a couple of things and grab onto the elevator and pull it down. It was just right there. I was like, okay, that's neat. But it's such a great game. Like it's been so long since we had a new Metroid, like you guys have said that, for me, I'm pouring myself into this as much as time will allow. And if I didn't have to go off and play a spooky game for this episode, it would have been pretty much just Metroid Dread. I did, like I said, take that little Smash Brothers break, but otherwise, that's it. But to Todd's point, the controls can take a little getting used to, but I find them like either 100% on them, like everything just clicks and works, or it takes me a second to retrain my brain. If I stop to play Fortnite or Smash Brothers or something, I'm like, okay, what button does what combination? And I've died a couple of times being like with those L bumper, L trigger, that kind of thing. But also I had like 2 double rum and Coke last night and beat, Experiment Z54, the big boss battle at one point. And it was just like, I'm like dodging stuff and doing like everything. And it was just like perfectly, just like, it took me a couple of times, but it was like, my reaction time probably shouldn't be this good. So it was just like, everything was just clicking for me, man. I don't know. Like it's just, I'm very much enjoying it. To Todd's point though, I will slightly argue that, yes, you can see the flaws on a big TV, but I've been playing most of this on a 55-inch 4K TV, and it looks fantastic. I'm not gonna, say I wouldn't like to see this game in 4K HDR or something like that, but it's still been, like, to me anyway, very, very impressive and very beautiful up on the big TV.
Yeah, it took me a while not a while, I would say when I first looked at Metroid Dread back at E3 when it was announced, I was kind of like, oh, sweet, new Metroid game, but also I wanted this to look like as good as the Prime trilogy. The Prime trilogy has such a great and timeless art style. It's insane to think like these have never been in HD officially, and they're on the hardware weaker than the Switch and weaker than even the new gen consoles, and it still looks fantastic. So I was kind of looking at Dread like, oh, it looks a little too animated, like something like that. But it grew on me when they showed off more of the game, like beyond just the first area. Like when you get to the forest, when you get to even some of the Chozo temples, I picture what a 3D Metroid game would look like with that art style, especially running at a fluid 60 frames per second. I'm just like, okay, I can go with this. Like it actually looks really freaking good, especially with the lighting. Man, like that's one of my guilty pleasures, is just really good lighting in video games. Like good lighting can just make up for so much.
I really enjoyed the animation in this game, especially Samus's animation, of whether it's the first thing that people noticed, I think in one of the first trailers, was her pressing up against walls and like actually kind of putting her arm on things. But just every little movement that she makes is so badass and so calculated. I love those cutscenes of like, she'll just kind of do a little smooth sidestep and like dodge a projectile shot or something, or like the badass flips and just explosion. It's like every single thing she does is like, oh yeah, she is the most badass bounty hunter in the galaxy. And like, she's showing that off right now. And it's oh man, so good. Just really I'm loving every second of it.
She seems almost influenced by Bayonetta in a way, to be honest. The way Bayonetta sachet is very stylish, kind of.
Very
she gets
acrobatic.
Yes. Less hair though.
Just a little.
I'm not saying the game doesn't look good. But I would say this is Nintendo's most I would say, realistic looking game in a way versus the other games, which are a little bit more, they use a stylish, cartoonish. So the Switch kind of shines regardless of the tech. But this one is like, it's very hard edged, like sci-fi, which like I say, I imagine with more power, this game would just shine even more. But it's a good looking game. So, and I thought it looked good at E3, and everybody's like, oh, it's not going to be the kind of like, this is the best Metroid's ever looked at. What are you guys talking about? And the way the movement is fantastic. Like I said, it's kind of twitchy, but it's very fluid. You never feel like, wow, it looks like it's kind of kludgy, or she feels like she's 800 pounds. Like, I never liked the Donkey Kong Tropical Freeze games, because Donkey Kong feels like 800 pounds and trying to do something like, oh, Donkey Kong, you're killing me. But
it feels like a gorilla.
Yeah. It does, yeah, definitely. So with this game, are there any like hints or tips to maybe somebody who is not as good at this game that would benefit them to just kind of like try something out, do something different, a different strategy?
It's a really good question. It's kind of crappy advice, but keep playing it. Like, I feel like experience is the best teacher in this regard. Like, I made a tips video about that too, and one of the things I mentioned was you can counter the Emmy's attacks. It's really hard, but you can do it. Yep. And I said the best way to do it is by practicing, because the animations for the Emmy change every time they catch you. So it's not like you're ever gonna find that perfect moment. You just gotta like know when that red light's coming. And I feel like that kind of goes for the game in general. Like keep in mind like all the controls there are, like know what they are, and from what it sounds like you already do, like you already know which button does what and whatnot. But the best way to get better at it is to keep playing it, keep learning from your mistakes, especially learning enemy and boss patterns, because each boss, especially the bosses, have very specific and very obvious patterns that you don't pick up on them right away. It takes some tries. And when you do, like, even hard mode isn't even that hard, because you'll know these patterns and you'll know how enemies move throughout the world, and you'll know which weapons suit you best. And, spam missiles. That's just missiles. Like, don't even be stingy with them. Just go nuts on the missiles.
One tip that I can say that's worked really well for me is don't be super obsessed with those countering moves. It's very easy to want to do the badass counter for when you're fighting any kind of enemy, but there are some bosses or mini bosses that, without spoiling too much, some of them attack you in pairs or are just tough and relentless, and you like countering the Emmys, which you should try to counter those. But for these ones, like Joey said, just spam the missiles. Just run away, shift away, jump, do whatever you need to do, and spam those missiles, because it's split-second timing for those animations, and usually the penalty for getting the timing wrong is a massive chunk of damage taken off of you. Sometimes you can't afford it, sometimes you can't, but it's a lot of times it's easier to just put some distance between you and the enemy and just spam those missiles. So don't always be obsessed with the counter. Do it when you're up close and you have no other option, like with the Emmys, but otherwise, don't be afraid to run away for a second and reposition. And also don't rush through battles. If you need to take a few minutes of just running away and finding those patterns, do that, and throw a missile here and there just to kind of keep them at bay or whatever, knock a little damage off. But like, don't be afraid to, like, you don't need to finish every boss in 30 seconds. Like, run away for a second, learn, take your time, and just kind of wait for your breathing to go back down of like, okay, I'm not in a boss, like you get that amped up breathing and heart rate and whatever, for like, oh, I'm in a boss battle. But once you calm down and start learning the patterns and running about a little bit, I find that your head can kind of be a little bit more clear and a little bit more like Zen state. And maybe that's where the rum came in, and I was able to like notice
you numbed yourself
maybe without being too in my head. I was just able to notice those patterns and like get away from it. But I think that like that's really, really worked for me in a few battles.
Yeah, Logan mentioned the parrying. If you use it and then kill them, is the amount of like health and missiles is much greater. So there's a benefit to doing
enemy.
it. Yeah.
For a regular enemy. Yeah, I'm talking for specifically for boss battles for the most part is or mini boss battles is the one that's really coming to mind because the first few times I was really trying to parry and stuff. Like I said, there's a couple of fights that they attack in pairs, and I was trying to parry and it was just like, this isn't working. Like, what can I do? And it was just like clicked in, like, just get away, just separate yourself and separate them. And just pick away at their health, just slowly over time. And I did that boss battle, I think, without getting touched once I kind of figured that out, versus like just straight up getting my ass kicked from all angles, trying to be like, time that perfect parry. Because there's 2 moves that they do that look really similar, and it's a pain.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, but if you can parry a boss, do it, because you will mess them up, like delete half of their health, like straight up.
Yeah, that's the first. Yeah, the first boss, Logan was like saying, hey, he was watching me play the first boss, and it's like you slide underneath the boss, you get the parry button, you do it, and he's like, yeah, just keep firing it. I'm like, oh, really? And I'm like, yeah, I'm doing a hell of a lot of damage now versus before I was like going up there hiding and like shooting. And so, it's really, there's, I think that's cool that you can have multiple approaches. It's like your Mark and Joey and me, and like, hey, have fun with it. And that's brings in the replayability, and the whole thing about Dread being basically you are going to be kind of not always in playing this game like you would a lot of Metroidvanias, Castlevanias, whatever you call them, where it's explore first, it's survive first.
Yes.
Which is different, which is cool. I love the fact they reinvented this franchise. This is kind of like the third franchise they kind of reinvented on the Switch.
Yes,
I hope they keep doing that with their franchises and rethink it, because this is the biggest audience the Switch Nintendo has ever had, most likely. So try stuff, because guess what? Even if it flops, you'll sell like 3 million copies.
Yeah, really. The sales for this game have been bananas, and I'm really curious to see how well it does, because I really wanted to hit that 3 million mark, because Metroid Prime 1 sold 2.82 million copies, I think, and that was the highest selling Metroid game. So I really hope Metroid easily breaks that record, and I feel like it could, especially this holiday season, what with Black Friday coming up and whatnot in November. So yeah, Metroid needs that sales boost, because my God, more of you people need to play Metroid, and it seems 100%. Like most people have. It had a great opening in the UK, because UK reports on their sales numbers right away for some reason. Still don't understand that, but they do. It was even number 1 in Japan on the eShop, which is almost unheard of for Metroid.
They hate Metroid.
They do. Yeah. It's nuts, right? So, yeah, there's just great success all around for any franchise that releases on Switch. Let's be honest.
Yeah, that's awesome. This is right now contender for Game of the Year for me. Yep. I'll say that right now. So I'll save that. We've got some heavy hitters coming out later in the year, but for right now, it's definitely. I think it's going to be making at least my top list, if not my absolute top. So,
I'll be curious, Mark, to see if this is the only game you and I play the same game we play this year, which may make it default the Game of the Year for us. But we're going to play Halo though, so that we don't have
Rising all over again. Although I loved that game as well. 2 years in a row, badass female protagonist. At least the way I played it for Phoenix Rising. I could handle that. That'd be fun.
Absolutely. So, Joey, one last question. Really curious about this. Does Game Explain have like a Game of the Year that overall, or is it individual editors that pick their own?
It's individual. Okay. We don't have like a here's the Game Explain's official Game of the Year. We're just like, here's our Games of the Year, and we make it a casual thing.
Got it. Because I know that's like the big thing. Like now the controversy is the cutoff date, because Halo is like December 10th, which is like late for some areas to actually review it. So that'll be cool. So that's kind of nice to have it. And do you guys have like a date where you have to submit those by?
No, we have a discussion about it at the end of December. So pretty much any game that's come out this year is fair game. Like we don't have like a cutoff date like the Game Awards does.
Right.
Great.
That's
Yeah,
awesome.
Secret Friends does it. We aren't held back by corporate overlords saying we got to have it out. So we'll wait until whenever we want to, Mark. It might even be like March, maybe.
No, we'll get to that in January, but we'll at least wait till the end of the calendar year, and then we'll make all the magic happen. So
early January. Yeah, definitely. Well, very cool. Yeah, so hopefully you guys are playing Metroid Dread. I know Sean Nias, who was on our show last week, is he's just loving the game and is telling us all about it, which is great because he hadn't played a Metroid game in a long, long time. So I know this is bringing a lot of fan base back into the franchise, so that's really cool. Mm-hmm. So a few news pieces really quick. G4 officially launches in November 2021. This is big news for me because I love G4. I love Tech TV. Then it became G4 Tech TV. Then it became G4. I love those shows. It was before YouTube even existed. This is how you got to see video games on the screen on shows you loved and people talking about video games. So I love this. So what do y'all think about G4 relaunching?
I think it's cool. So did they clarify that it's relaunching like on TV, or is it just only online?
So this is going to be streaming. It's going to be actually a streaming service or a network. Comcast owns it. So it'll be like if you're a Comcast subscriber. But I subscribe to a service called Philo, which is essentially all cable excluding sports and news. So it's like, it's got Food Network, it's got Cooking Channel, it's got History, TLC, all those channels, and it will have G4 on it. And it's like $20 a month. So I've got that. And there will be ways to get it as well, I believe, through other services, like through Roku, I think. I don't know how they're going to do it, but it will be a network rather than just how they've been doing it, which has just been on YouTube content, essentially.
I see. Neat. That's interesting to see how that's going to turn out then, because as far as I know, most people I know consume their content mostly just through YouTube and their gaming content, that is, YouTube, Twitch, stuff like that. So yeah, that's going to be curious to see how G4 does in that space. I assume they'll still be uploading to YouTube and Twitch whenever they can. So yeah, interesting stuff.
Yeah, it's an interesting model for sure of, going back to traditional TV kind of thing. And like, you have to wonder, has the gaming community kind of moved on, or are they going to center this more at like, I'll say like the more casual TV viewer that may not be on Twitch or may not be following podcasts or YouTube channels as religiously as we do. It's going to be interesting. We'll see how it kind of shakes out, I guess, but it'll be interesting to see what they do and what approach they take with it. And, how they kind of manage that balance of like, hey, stop watching Twitch for a second and watch cable TV.
Yeah, man, but I loved G4 too back in the day. Like, man, oh man, I got a lot of nostalgia for that. I just remember going to my grandparents' house because they're the ones who got the channel, and I would just be sitting there like all the time, at least hoping they'll show something of what I love. Like, I hope they play that Sonic gameplay video again or something, right? But I remember, man, there was like a retrospective on like LucasArts games, and I was like, oh, I'd love to play those games sometime. So in a sense, I have this weird nostalgia for those point and click LucasArts games, not because I played them, but because I remember this feature on G4 about them that I don't even know like how to find it anymore. So yeah.
All right.
Yeah, G4 Icons was one of my favorite. It was basically giving me the history of video games in these specials, which are awesome because there wasn't anything out there like that. What I think what we've missed with video games is high-end quality produced video game content.
Yes.
Watching a streamer is one thing, but watching like XPlay and how they did their reviews, how they think, and obviously we've got like video game sites doing that. Game Explain doing high end quality with voiceovers. I mean, but a lot of that came from XPlay and a lot of the fun things they did. So I think they're going to be a happy medium. I think you can take what they did, bring it up to speed, and still be complementary to what you get with YouTube and things like that, because we got individual creators. But once again, nobody's really making like high end scripted content. A lot of people are making a script and doing things like that. But we do have some people doing that stuff, but bringing it all together could be very cool. And they've already, the people behind this now, they've got Xavier Woods, who's a big wrestler, Adam Sessler's back, but they're bringing a lot of new talent as well from the streaming area. So this could be really cool. And I think because Comcast owns this, Comcast is one of the biggest media corporations in the world. I don't think they're just going to put this out on Comcast like the cable systems. I think this is going to go to Peacock. I think it's going to be on their other avenues of the streaming. So, and Mark, I don't know, Canada, that's always a mixed bag of how you get stuff there. So maybe it'd be on...
started in Canada, right? Like that was Rogers originally and then bought by
Tech
Comcast.
TV Canada. Was that what it was? Tech TV Canada, maybe?
I can't remember. Someone that's better with Canadian TV history, maybe Ryan Turford or someone can correct me on that one. But I thought G4 started in Canada.
Probably like a precursor. Well, inherited the Anti-Gravity Room, which I think was a Canada show that was video games and comic books back in the day.
Well, weren't a lot of like G4 people like Canadian anyway? Wasn't Jeff Keighley on G4?
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. Tommy Tallarico was on. Well, a lot of the stuff like, what was it? Tommy Tallarico and Victor Lucas did a lot of stuff on Tech TV. Yeah. So, a lot of Canadian influence there. So, very cool.
Victor Lucas has an amazing voice.
Oh, he's awesome.
Yeah. You guys need to subscribe to him.
So much content every day. Reviews on the run, all that stuff. Yeah. I would love that. Mark, pull some Canadian strings, bring Victor Lucas on the show.
I'll send a couple of beavers and moose out to try to get the word out. I'll see what I can do.
A couple of Tim Hortons.
Yeah.
Timbits. Just leave a trail of Timbits.
I'll send a Maple
what's so fun? You know what's funny, though? And I remember seeing this chart, most popular fast food chains in America by state. And I guess there's a Tim Hortons in Oklahoma. Random, but okay. There's your useless Oklahoma. Yeah, there's your useless Oklahoma fact for the day, everybody.
I like it. It's a rogue Tim Hortons just escaping the border and going where it can be.
Exactly.
And then the last news story that was interesting, this kind of came out of the blue, which is the Nintendo Switch Online Expansion Pack, their pricing, and then we also got Animal Crossing had their Direct, and they also have their DLC. So a lot of this came out Friday. When they first announced this expansion pack, they didn't do pricing. And everybody said, that's a red flag. And then they said, okay, here it is. And they announced things out of the blue. So I have my thoughts, but I want your thoughts first. So Joey, you're probably getting a little bit more of a broader, I guess, filter into the world of this type of pricing, because Game Explained does a lot of Nintendo content. So what are you guys hearing?
Well, we hear as much as you guys hear on this front. So I don't really have any like industry insider trading secrets or whatever, but I will say we do have our own separate opinions on this. When I first heard about that price, I was like, what the hell? Like, I am miffed because I'm willing to spend that much. I am, because I really want to play Nintendo 64 games on my Switch. And that Animal Crossing DLC does look really cool, even though I've fallen off of that game. Like, I kid you not, like 2 months after it came out. I'm of two minds with this. It's just like, it's like, on one hand, if you don't like this price, okay, don't buy it. Shut up. Leave me alone. But also, I understand where you're coming from, because it is still like, yeah, it's $50 a year. And like, is it 50? Yeah, it is 50, but it's 80, I believe. This is in the United States, at least. This for family, it's 80. So it's like, hey, find 7 family members, like do it that way, or 7 people to share on a family plan.
Right.
But it is also just kind of like, I'd be more okay with this price if Switch Online, like the cloud saves worked for every game and not just like a few weird exceptions, as well as like give us real voice chat. Like, it still boggles my mind that like they had normal voice chat on the Wii U, but completely ass backwards voice chat on the Nintendo Switch.
Yep.
That's just, it drives me nuts. So it is kind of just like,
better voice chat on the DS, because it had a microphone.
DS. Yes. And we know built-in voice chat's capable on the Switch because games like Fortnite and Warframe, I believe, support in-game voice chat. Yep. So I don't understand what's going on here. Like, it is kind of just harkens back to Nintendo Switch Online. It's like we all of a sudden remember now that, hey, this service ain't that great aside from their library of classic games, which is really good. And it is the reason why, well, part of the reason I am going to buy it anyway is because it's part of my job anyway, because I got to have it anyway, right? And I'm sure I'm going to do it with a family plan, so we only have to spend like $10, $12 a year anyway. But Yeah, it's strange. And we've seen companies, and I'm not against people complaining about this online. I do have a problem with people calling others Nintendo drones or like Nintendo fanboys for and also I hate this stupid meme. It's Prince. It's the famous pop singer Prince holding a sign saying it's okay to pirate Nintendo games. You should always pirate Nintendo games. It's always morally correct. And I'm just like, okay, stop talking like that. Like, it's not always morally correct.
Right.
And it's just just it's okay to have an opinion on this matter, but you shouldn't crap on other people for their opinions on this. Like, don't go calling people Nintendo drones or Nintendo fanboys just because they're willing to spend money on this service. And also, like, don't tell people to shut up and just not pay for the service and just be quiet. Like, it is okay to voice your opinions to a company. Remember when Microsoft was about to double the price of Xbox Live? Then they shut that down real quick. I admit it's going to be harder for Nintendo to listen on this matter, but that's the way I see it. It's just like, it's a really mixed bag for me.
Yeah. I'm kind of feeling the same way. And really the only thing I'll add is the price for me is it's high. It's higher than I expected. If you go talk to Dan from Retro Logic, we talked to him a few weeks ago. We were talking about the price of going to collect some of these games that, buying a few N64 carts, finding a working N64, hooking up to a modern TV, all that kind of stuff. Like, it's going to cost you a lot more than a subscription to this service. The only thing I'll add is I wish there was tiers to this, because for someone, and I'm sure this is what Todd's going to say, so I apologize for stealing your thunder a bit, Todd, but if you're not an Animal Crossing fan, this kind of sucks, because throwing the DLC in there for someone like me or my wife or my sister or my brother or my nephew, who we're all splitting on a family plan, so it's like $20 a year to me anyway, which I'm not super concerned about right now. But it's still high, and it's way higher than we've been paying in a family plan for the last few years. But excuse me. But if you're not an Animal Crossing fan, then the price, the value proposition is like really turned on its head. That free, whatever, $25, $30 DLC is, that's a good thing to throw in there. And I hope as we see the year progress, I don't think we'll see every single Nintendo DLC thrown in there, but if they would throw in like, oh, here's a couple of extra boards for, Super Mario Party All-Stars or whatever that one's called that's coming out, or here's something like extra little bonuses to make it worthwhile. Because if they just stick to Animal Crossing, Todd, you want to take over and talk about how jazzed you are about this whole service? Because like I said, I'm excited to play it. My wife, my sister, we're all excited. So we're in, right? Like it's hitting our N64 childhood. We're already planning out some Mario Kart Online game nights that way. We're all excited to get back. Joey, we're similar. We've fallen off of Animal Crossing for the most part, but getting back in and spending another 100 hours in all of this expansion that they've just announced sounds fun. And, if only 10 hours is in the Happy Island Designer or whatever the hell this expansion's called, then cool. But the rest of the expansion that they announced is free and great. But if you're not jazzed about that game, then Todd, is this service doing anything for you whatsoever?
It's zilch. I have no nostalgia for N64 Genesis games, so I'm like, I might want to play those, but not for the price they're offering them. I've heard there's maybe some costs because of licensing and working with Sega. That could be a big deal, because why would Sega be involved if they're not getting a piece of the pie, right? They don't own the game, so that could be a part of licensing to get some of the games that Nintendo doesn't own. Could be a part of the deal to get Conker or ukulele not ukulele, sorry,
Banjo-Kazooie.
Banjo-Kazooie, exactly. So as everybody thinks that Nintendo and Microsoft are fans, they're friends to a point, but it's all about money. They're big corporations. They want to make money off of it. I don't think Banjo came to Smash for free. Let's just put it this. Let's be realistic. It's not a relationship made in heaven. But I would say this. So for me, it's not a big deal. But I would try those games if it was affordable. Like I said, I've never seen it's not like Netflix is saying, well, here's Netflix Plus, and it's twice the cost of what you pay today. This is what it is. It's twice the cost. I don't know if N64 and Genesis games, N64 is going to have a smaller library than the SNES or NES. Genesis may too. So you're not exactly getting more games. And those games are now 25 years old. I'm sorry, 25-year-old games are not to me that value. They are if you're a collector and things like that. But I played it, Super Mario 64. I didn't enjoy it playing it because it's an older game that I feel like I've got games to scratch that itch. So I know I'm not on the bandwagon with other people, but for me, it's not. But I will say this about the Animal Crossing bit. Year one, it makes financial sense, but you're renting that DLC, and every year you got to pay another whatever amount. Buy it for $25 and you own it forever.
Yeah.
Subscription is
Yep.
It is. You don't own that DLC. That goes away, Mark, if you year one. So to me, it's not a good value whatsoever after year one, even unless you have 8 people, $10, whatever. So I think people forget that. And it's like, great. Now, if they told me every Nintendo DLC will be part of this, that's a different story. Or we'll know how many games get. Nintendo is notorious for not being great about adding on things year over year. Yeah. We know how the SNES and the NES library went after a while. You get some game you've never heard of 3 years later because they run out of stuff or they don't make the effort. So to me, it's a mixed bag. It's a weird thing. Like I said, this would be like Game Pass Ultimate. Game Pass is $120 a year. Game Pass Ultimate is $360 essentially. For so it's like, it's just some context to this. I totally get it. Nobody has a good. Let's put it this way. The Nintendo faithful rarely ever say no to Nintendo. And so because of that, Nintendo says we can do whatever you want and you'll pay. And so that's the cost of this company, which a lot of people love. I don't love video game companies. I love the games they make because all these video game companies ultimately are out to get all the money you can get out of them. So I just struggle with it at times that people love Nintendo, but Nintendo's like Disney. They want all of your money. They'll give you what you love, but they're not exactly in it to make it affordable to you. Like you said, Joey, the fact that you can only have one Animal Crossing island per Switch makes that game so I think that's the most biggest FU financially to any family because it's essentially the next Animal Crossing copy you want is at minimum $260. Come on.
Yeah, that's dumb. Yeah. I forgot about that. Thanks for reminding me. I'm leaving. I'm mad.
I'm here for you. No, but it's what you love. I'm a big Sony fan, but they make a lot of dumb decisions and they want all my money. Xbox wants you to subscribe and pay them $180 a year. When those Game Pass deals run out, you're going to pay them $180 a year and maybe $240 a year. Yeah, so I don't hold video game companies as, oh, I love them. No, they're trying to get your back until they can charge you more. Until you complain. But, it is what it is.
Remember, kids, corporations are not your friends.
Exactly.
Except Amazon. Amazon's your best friend.
Sure. Absolutely. Free shipping. Free shipping is worth bad
warehouse conditions.
Yeah. Exactly. Yeah, I always say this. If you've watched Futurama, the Mom Corporation, that is what every corporation is. They put an image out there. I work for a big corporation. I'm the same boat. Sorry. So So there we go. So I am the bad guy because I own the Nintendo Family Pass for myself and several family members. So I don't know unless they're going to pay me more to pay for the next year, we may have to break up the family.
Yeah, man, you got to start charging people money. That's it. And that's the big change for me is I've been paying myself for the family plan because I was going to get it for myself. I was already paying Switch Online. When my wife got her own Switch, it was like, let's just do the family plan, whatever. It's like $40-$50 or something like that Canadian, right? And then my nephew got a Switch. I threw him on there. There's like so now it's at that point where it's like, okay, well, this is expensive. Let's start switching. Let's start splitting this cost. So I had that discussion and everyone luckily was on board, but I was like, I'm not fronting this for everyone. Like this is a more expensive endeavor than just like, I can do that without thinking. This is now $100 plus tax Canadian that I'm like, no, if you guys want this, we can split this 5-6 ways. I think we got another person on board. Like I said, so 5, I think it's like 5 ways at this point. That I'm like, let's I don't mind spending $20 a year, but like $100 for me to provide everyone with this service is like just not going to happen. It's not that. I think Ryan and Sean were talking about this on the Xbox Drive or one of their podcasts where you see those deals that it's like, oh, it's $15. Yeah, no brainer. That's only a couple of coffees, or like, it's like eating out at this place like once or whatever. This wasn't, it used to be, the Nintendo Switch Online used to be that kind of decision. And now it's not. Now it's I got to think about this. I've got to budget this. I've got to find a way to expand my family or friends or whatever I want in this and split with someone. It's becoming that kind of thing. So hopefully if you have some people that like it and you want it, you can find that cost, or like Joey, it's part of the job kind of thing. And it's an expected expense, but it is something that causes people to pause. So that's an interesting place for Nintendo to be in, where to me, it's been mindless for the last, 3-4 years or something.
Absolutely. Yeah. So I might be fired by the family when they find out they're not getting the extra pass, but that's okay. Maybe they'll front the extra cash to keep it
That's
going.
okay. I'll find a new family.
That's it. Exactly.
I'll start my own family with blackjack and hookers.
Yes.
Thank you
Another
for saying that.
another Futurama quote. I couldn't leave you just at
Of
mom.
course.
Yeah.
Yes.
Oh, good time. So yeah, let us know, folks. Are you all in on this? Are you going to push back? Let us know what you think, because I am curious to hear if I'm the only one that's insane enough to say this doesn't make a lot of sense. But you know what? I've been wrong before, and I'll be wrong again. So with
all?
that, it's tough when your son tells you, "Dad, you suck." Oh well, no, that never happened. Yes. So we now are going to the bonus round, which is all about Shocktober. So as Mark and I had mentioned, our community picked a game for us each to play that was scary. We put out a couple polls out there. I picked some random games, Mark, I think you did, but all on Game Pass, essentially. So we weren't sure what we were going to get. So Mark, what game did you get?
I got Alien Isolation. I don't have much great stuff to say about this game, to be honest. I don't like stealth games, and I found this game was paced like a friggin' snail. I liked the Aliens movies growing up. Like they were the kind of horror movies that I liked. I've never been a big like slasher horror fan kind of thing, but like the psychological horror of being trapped on this ship in space where no one can hear you scream against this alien who you never know where it's going to be and is just picking people off. And I loved that kind of thing. And I was hoping to get that in this game, but I wish it happened sooner. Like there's so much exposition in this thing. I think I played it for like an hour and a half, 2 hours before someone got killed by the alien, and then it just left for a little bit, and I was faced off against like cranky humans for another little while, and I was just like, why? Just don't do here, guess what? You're in a ship, your name's Ripley, and there's an alien trying to eat you. Just give me that. And don't do 2 hours. Like this is longer than a movie of exposition. And like it just, and I know like, because we had the time limit, and I think part of the reason was because we said, let's play a minimum of 3 hours. And I just kept wanting to get back to Dread. So maybe I wasn't in the right mindset for this game, but the whole time I was just like, it's just paced so slowly. And like Metroid again got me so into the action so right away, just kept going and going and building and building. And this one, I just felt it was like, I don't care about you, Mr. Irishman. I don't care about what's going on with this ship. Either get me off or give me a gun and let me start opening up. It was just like, just didn't do it for me. I'm sorry, community. I wish I liked this, but I didn't. Did either of you guys play this?
I've never played it before. So Joey, you have. So I have a couple of questions about this game. Yeah. So is this set in like the actual, like, is this part of Alien with the crew we know in that movie? Is it a different type of crew that is also experiencing the xenomorphs?
Yeah, you're Ripley's daughter, and you're trying to find basically the black box, I think is kind of like how they describe it, of the Nostromo. something like that. Anyway, there's a manifest or something like that this space station has from there. So you go to dock on the space station and the communications are interrupted, and you go on there and there's like a bunch of shit that's gone down, and nobody's like, the whole thing's desolate, and there's like little pockets of people, but they're not getting along anymore. And it's basically like the apocalypse, but on a space station. So it's kind of weird. And then, yeah, shit just kind of goes down. But like that explanation happens over like an hour and a half.
Mm-hmm.
And again, like there's just those stupid little video gamey things. Like you can't jump. So like there's an inch and a half of garbage on the ground, and you're just like, just walk over that. And she's just like, now let's find a way around it. And it's like, just fuck. Like, just no. So I don't
Are you underestimating the difficulty of space garbage, Mark?
I guess. So anyway, Joey, if you want to jump in with, because you like this better than I did.
Yeah, but no, I totally understand where you're coming from. Because for one, I totally get like playing a game, but like you have another game in mind. So It's just like, is this game bad, or am I just really fucking impatient right now?
And that's how I'm feeling. I really don't know.
Yeah, Alien Isolation is not a game you can just jump right into and like expect to have fun right away. It is I never finished this game, for one. I've always wanted to finish it. I've started it a few times, like on different platforms, and I get to a point, and then like when I decide to come back, I forgot the story already. So now I'm like, oh well, time to start over again. Here we go. Yeah, it is a slow game, and it is a stealthy game. It gets very tense though when like you're actually trying to hide from the alien, escape from the alien xenomorph. And I do like the setting. I love the art style of the game in the sense that it is stylized like a future that was designed in the 70s/80s.
Yeah, it had some very pretty bits. Some of the lighting, again, you mentioned lighting in Dread. Some of the lighting was fantastic, very ominous. There was one bit that like something popped, and it did make you feel that kind of like, what the hell's going on here? What's gonna come from whatever angle? But so yeah, feeling wise, they nailed the feel of an alien movie for sure.
Yeah, the music even sounds like it was ripped right out of the movie, but it's all original tracks. It's really good. The game is really good, but it's a slow one, and it's also, from what I've heard, it's also really long, and it's like 20 hours to beat. And I'm like, a stealth game that long where if you get caught, you die. I'm not sure if I want to deal with that.
Not for me. Yeah. Not for me.
Yes.
Oh, sorry. No, the last bit I will say on this is because I knew we were playing a spooky game, and the community wanted to pick something that would cause me to kind of stress out. I didn't mention this on the podcast or in the community, but there's not much that does that to me. So I played PT in a dark basement at my brother-in-law's place, and he expected it to scare the crap out of me. And I just kind of played it through, and I was just kind of sitting there like, yeah, okay, cool. This is, oh, that's neat. There's a baby in the sink, and it's like screaming at me or whatever. Like it was like weird, but it wasn't like, it didn't scare me. Like I said, stuff like the dog bursting through in Resident Evil, like that kind of like jump scare kind of gets me going a little bit. But like for the most part, stuff like that doesn't really get my heart rate going. And I've mentioned that a few times on this episode because I was actually through my watching my heart rate playing Aliens or Alien Isolation. And it didn't really raise too much more than like my sitting resting heart rate. So that was a good.
What about
sign.
your resting bitch face, Mark?
Yeah, I was totally resting bitch face while playing this. But that was a good sign because I've then gone back and like looked at it through playing Dread or playing Fortnite when it's like down to that like final two kind of thing, and you're really getting that adrenaline up. And I was like, if that can raise my heart rate, like that's what I want from a horror game. And so Isolation, like. What do you call it? Like I can demonstrate through heart rates that it didn't really get anything going, but Dread has, and I'd like to play something that it messes it. And again, maybe it was just mindset at the time, but didn't really get me going. So sorry, community, I tried.
So there's no combat in the game. It's really just hiding and surviving, right?
There's minimal combat, but that was another thing that really pissed me off. Like I said, when the person gets killed and then you're faced off against like dumb humans again, There was a point where it was like you're trying to stealthily kill these people or whatever, and I nailed one guy with a crowbar or whatever, wrench or something that you have, and he died, and I looted his body, and there was like bullets there, but he was shooting at me, and I couldn't pick up his gun and shoot the other people that were again shooting at me. And I was like, well, why let me kill these people if I can't pick up their weapons to shoot back at the other people who are clearly shooting at me? And why give me ammo? And it just started to frustrate me that way. So then it was just kind of like, okay, well, I guess I'll hide for a second. And then they were like hiding outside of where I was hiding. So I had to wait for the thing to do like all stealth games. You have to wait for the AI to be like, oh, I guess that person has left now. Let's maneuver this way. And so after I did that for a few times, it was just like, it completely broke me from the experience of like any kind of tenseness. It was just like, let's wait for your AI loop to like restart for a second. And so it was one of those kind of experiences that, again, my mindset was just like, whew, I could be using this for Metroid time. That's 3 hours of Metroid time I'll never get back before I talk on this episode. So that was,
and I gotta bring it up. Metroid is based on Alien.
I know.
Exactly.
So that's why I was kind of excited to play this. I was like, I again, love the movie. I'm in the Alien mindset with Metroid. I mean, we have a character named Ripley in Metroid, and there's so much there. And
it's Ridley, but
Ridley, right? Sorry, but
the director
Ripley,
of Alien is Ridley Scott,
and Ridley Scott, and it's
absolutely.
So I mean, I wish I liked this better.
I feel like you would probably, but if you already hate stealth games, that's one thing.
I do not like stealth games.
Yeah. Then you probably won't like it. Like, especially how many hours have you played of it? Also,
probably like 3.
Yeah, the game doesn't even get like really good until like 5 hours in. Great. So, like I said, like you said,
2 hours to go before I even start.
Mark, just keep trying.
Enjoying this.
Yeah, keep loving it.
Yeah,
keep loving it.
I'll tell you what.
Like you
that's
said,
going to need more than 2 shots of rum.
Yep. Like I said, this game moves at a snail's pace. It's nuts.
Yeah.
That's like asking for like a 5-hour horror film. Nobody wants it. Everyone wants a tight 90 with a horror film.
I don't watch any kind of 5-hour film. Like if you told me Endgame was 5 hours, I'd be like, no, break it up. Like I freaking love Endgame. I will rewatch that movie, but like 3 hours, I'm like, no, that's my attention. Like,
I mean, I was watching the new James Bond the other night, and it was 2 hours 45 minutes, maybe a little less than that. But that movie just went on and on and on.
Yeah.
It's just like, my God, find an ending. But I do have to ask you, Mark, did you ever play Aliens Fireteam Elite? If you're a big fan of Aliens?
I don't think I played that one. No.
Yeah, that just
came out a couple months ago, right? Yeah.
Okay. I heard it was all right.
Definitely didn't.
I mean, it's like a 4 player co-op shooter. So
okay. I could get into that.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. I'll play it when it's on, if it ever comes on Game Pass. But
I imagine it will. I heard it's not doing very well. So that's a Left 4 Dead with aliens. Why not?
Oh, it was also a mid-budget game, so you got to set expectations accordingly for that. Yeah. So,
Todd, you've been playing some Dead Space 2.
I
hope you had a better.
I think we should let Joey go first.
Okay,
you think so?
Right. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Cool. So the game that I'm really playing right now is one that I've always wanted to finish, but I haven't, and I aim to finish it just because I hear the sequel is much better. It's one of those games I'm playing just because I hear the sequel is much better, and I can't start with the sequel. Is The Evil Within.
Oh, yeah. Me too.
Yeah, I heard the sequel is just so much better, and so I'm like, well, I started this game when it came out. I need to finish it, right? So I got it on Game Pass. I would play it on PC, but the PC is an unoptimized mess. So I just stuck with the Xbox version, which is like that game. It's a love-hate relationship with that game. Like I love the tone of it. It's very creepy. It's very unsettling because you're basically inside this fucked up person's head the whole time, and it is very much kind of like a Halloween game for me, and especially since that was like when I was doing stuff on my channel, that was like a Halloween special video I did, so there is kind of like a nostalgia thing for me there. But yeah, I love the setting. I love the gameplay elements of having to upgrade your character, become more powerful over time, that sort of deal. But like the controls are very frustrating at times. Like it's a very slippery game, I feel like. This is why I really wanted to play it on PC for that frame rate, but it's just super unoptimized on my PC. so I had to settle with the Xbox version. So yeah, I'm on like chapter 11, not a 17, so hopefully I'll finish that soon. But yeah, I just heard the sequel's much better. I'm playing it for the sequel.
Now I'll have to hear from you, Joey, because I played a little bit of The Evil Within 1. I remember I just remember sitting underneath a lot of beds waiting for the thing to get out of your way, and I'm like, I'm waiting. Oh, maybe I can go now and something better. I suck at stealth games too, so I'd be curious to see if the second game is a departure, or if it's better, and maybe I'll just skip and watch like a YouTube what happened. So I'll be curious to see what you say.
You might have. I have a feeling you might have to, and I feel like I should have done that to begin with. But it was just one of those games. I know I started it. I know I got to finish it. Also, it's not a stealth game. I will say that it's the first level is stealth because you're unequipped to fight this thing. But then later on, there's stealth elements. You can sneak up behind enemies, but stealth is not as required at all. I mean, it's from the creator of Resident Evil, so Resident Evil 4. It's sort of like in that same ballpark. But yeah, it's good. I wouldn't say it's amazing, but it's a good one.
Cool.
Okay. Mm-hmm. Oh, did you have another game too, Joey?
I guess I did. Yeah, I didn't know if we wanted to bring it up again.
Sure.
All right. I was just sitting there waiting for you, like, yeah. Yep. So, what's your game, Todd? But I've also been playing Alan Wake Remastered.
Ooh,
what a game that is! My goodness, I've since I already played that game last year, not the remaster, of course, but the original. I played it recently. I'm kind of just like, okay, well, I've already played this before. I'm going to put that to the side for a minute and finish The Evil Within. But I'm really loving Alan Wake Remastered. It's essentially the same game as Alan Wake, but higher resolution, higher frame rates. The character models have been redone. The visuals have been touched up, but it's one of those situations where you won't know the difference until you see a side by side. Like then you really see, oh wow, they really did redo this thing. Like they gave it a facelift because the textures are way better, the foliage is way better, and because you're going to be in a forest a lot in this game, right? I wouldn't say the game's super scary, but I play it for the story, and the story is just one of the best things about it. The characters are really fun. They're kind of two-dimensional at times. The writing's a little hokey, but it kind of is like hokey on purpose, because it's very much like a pulp style horror movie type game, a horror movie, horror novel, since it's about Alan Wake, who's an author, and his writings come to life in front of him, basically. The story is a lot more complicated than that, but I just remember playing that game in 2010 when it originally came out and just falling in love with it. I didn't think I was going to fall in love with it. I was just like, oh, I'll rent this game and then I'll see if I like it. Then I wound up loving it, and I'm still waiting for the sequel to this day. And the fact that, well, Control is kind of a sequel to Alan Wake because they're set in the same universe, but that's a story for another time. But now that Remastered's out, hopefully that means they're working on Alan Wake 2 finally.
Gauging some interest, maybe. Yeah.
Yep.
Exciting.
It's so good. Like if you haven't played Alan Wake, the remaster version is the way to go because it's $30. That's a reasonably priced remaster, and they do a lot of good quality of life, like sort of things. It's way better to play games at 60 frames per second. In case you didn't know, not to be a snob or anything, but yeah.
Excellent.
Yeah, you can get the 360 version on Xbox for like $10, but at this point, I've seen comparison. Just treat yourself. Just enjoy it. They didn't really change the gameplay from what I understand that much at all. Cameras are probably the same, but the visuals, they removed some of the sponsorship with Duracell, which I thought was funny back in the day. So weird.
Yeah. Verizon, like there's a scene where he literally whips out his phone and it's just a whole shot of like Verizon on his phone. I was just like, oh, okay, cheeky, but okay.
Weird.
Yeah, remember when cell phone companies used to like put their like brand on your phone? Thank goodness they don't do that anymore. I don't think they do.
Checking to make sure that mine doesn't.
Yeah, I was gonna say, no T-Mobile on my phone. Exactly. Yeah. Oh, that's awesome to hear because I'm like, oh, it was one of my favorite franchises on the Xbox 360. I love Control, but I'm like, I got to hold back because I still have to play the Control DLC, which I heard is fantastic, and it does bring in the Alan Wake stuff, which is cool.
Oh, it's so good. I love it. I love Alan Wake.
So good. Okay. Well, yeah, check that out, guys, especially if you like Stephen King's The Dark Half. This is like the spiritual successor video game for that. So very cool. Twin Peaks, Stephen King game. So awesome, Joy. I'm glad you like that. That's awesome to hear. Yeah, for me, yeah, my pick was Dead Space 2. I loved Dead Space 1. And for some reason, I don't know what happened. Life changed. I never played Dead Space 2. Don't know why. But I tried Dead Space 3, which I'm like, this doesn't feel right. So Dead Space 2, I'm playing on 360. I could play it on PC through Game Pass as well. But I decided, I'll just play it on, I don't know if there's like cross saves or anything there. I'm not sure. So I'm kind of dedicated to the 360 or to the Xbox One S, or sorry, Series S. And wow, this game holds up surprisingly well. The controls, the visuals, the audio, it just seems like a game that could use a couple of visual polishes, but man, it still looks good and it's still creepy. I was wearing the Xbox new wireless headset and the sound was very impressive, like creepy, like weird in my ears. The stereo sound really creeped me out. But this is, if nobody's played Dead Space, essentially it's like, what's that movie with Lawrence Fishburne where Sam Neill goes crazy?
Event Horizon.
Yeah, this is like Event Horizon, the video game, where just hell breaks loose. A tower's brought in. It basically opens up basically all this insanity where these creatures come through. They infect people. So you're basically killing aliens. Sorry, guys. I guess I threw aliens under the bus in my pick. I like killing these aliens quite a bit, but it's creepy. It's very much like it's like the undead in space. It's wonderful. And I loved how the first game could have been the end of the series and be like, that's great. One of the best standalone games ever, but they made a sequel and I'm really enjoying it. They take what you liked in the first game, they're adding on to it and it's creepy. And what really made the game creepy, just like the Resident Evil games at times, was managing your inventory. If you start running out of stuff, you really are defenseless. There's not much you can do. You can maybe try to run, but you're not very fast. You have an upgrade path, but if you make the wrong decisions in your upgrade path, you kind of screw yourself. And I think that's where I'm getting to the point now where it's like, man, my ammo is going a lot faster than I wish it would. You have a stasis effect, which is really cool, where you freeze people. And then you also have almost like a, call it gravity gun or whatever, where you can reach out and grab things and then shoot them out. I don't know if it's a gravity control. Such a cool mechanic. And then they bring in like free floating, like where there's no gravity. So you can float around in the environment and have some combat there. They've got points where you go into a vacuum in space and you run out of oxygen. Just so many cool mechanics. And this game does get freaky. I mean, little babies running around. Guys, come on, Mark. Mark, if you tell me little babies don't scare you, come on, Mark. Nope, I'm too big boy.
There's nothing wrong with the babies. They're just little babies crawling around in the game.
And just killing you. Yeah, that's nothing creepy at all.
No,
not at all.
Yeah. So I was pleasantly surprised by this game. Mark, I wish you could have played it. I'm not sure if you have a history of Dead Space, but Dead Space 2 is really, really good so far. I'm really enjoying it.
I'll check it out.
Yeah, I mean, I like those type of games, so they don't scare me, but it is that jump scare every once in a while where they come out, it's like, oh crap, what's going on? And I will say what scares you, the death scenes in this game kind of reminds me before Tomb Raider did it. Like I'm about to get, like I've got to shut down this barrier to close out the vacuum because I'm getting sucked in. And if you do it too late, chopped right in half, limbs, and it's like different various death scenes. I've died 3 times, 3 different ways in the same scene where I'm like, they did 3 different death animations. That's amazing. But it's horrific too.
I haven't played Dead Space in a long time. I played the first one on PS3, like maybe 2012, something like that.
Yeah.
I was thinking, man, that game was visually impressive. Like it was visually stunning, which was kind of why I was like, does it need a remaster? Does it need a remake? But
it does.
It does, because also just for accessibility, of course, people want to play on the newest hardware they can. So yeah, I'm gonna have to revisit Dead Space 1 and 2 because I finished 1 a long time ago, but I never finished 2. I have them both on Steam, so I'm definitely have to do that. But I actually tried playing Dead Space on Steam recently, and for some reason the mouse and the keyboard controls were kind of funky, so I might just have to plug in a controller for that, which hey, I'm fine doing. So I'll do anything for that 60 frames per second, you know?
Yeah, and I think the problem, because I have a Series S, versus a Series X, I think I don't get the enhancements that were done with 360 games like the Xbox One X did. Right. So I don't know, but it still looked pretty good in my.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know if every Xbox game got those enhancements. I don't know if Dead Space was one of them. So
yeah, that's good. Yeah, but the other thing I want to call it, the way they use like minimal your UI in the game, like the fact that your health and your stasis and everything there is basically on your backpack, which is so cool. It's so informative, very neat. I love the way that you tell your way the way pathing, which you just click the one button and it shows you where to go with like this cool like visual cue. It's so neat. I just really think cool. I'm so glad this series is coming back.
Yeah, me too. Yeah, absolutely. I need to get into that.
So I put out, speaking of babies, my little guy's freaking out upstairs. So I
you heard what Todd said about babies.
Yep.
Absolutely. That comes from you, Mark.
So I do want to mention a couple of things. So Todd, you liked your game. I didn't like mine, but I put out to their community what games they like playing around Halloween. So I want to read a couple of these right now. So Famous Seamus got back with, I haven't started yet due to work life stuff, but I plan on playing Resident Evil Village, Visage, that just came out on Game Pass, Visage, and Back 4 Blood for Halloween. Alan Updog at JP Dog Zone on Twitter. That's a friend of yours, Joey. You said, yeah. So he said, Alan Wake is calling me. So another Alan Wake fan, at least until Resident Evil 4 VR comes out. So that's just a couple of quick responses, but that did lead me into, I think, the last question I have for you guys. What's your favorite game to play for Halloween?
It's a good question. I never really had like a traditional Halloween game. Like I usually play weird ones like that aren't really Halloween themed, but like when I was talking about the Arkham Origins, Arkham Asylum, those kind of games, I was kind of like, yeah, those have kind of become like a semi-annual thing I do. But I would love for Luigi's Mansion 3 to be that Halloween game, because when I think of Halloween, I don't really. I do think about horror, yes, like actual scary stuff that like crap your pants type deal. But I also think of the whimsical side of Halloween. Like some of my favorite Halloween movies are like Hocus Pocus, Addams Family, Nightmare Before Christmas, like the family friendly stuff. And that's kind of the itch that Luigi's Mansion 3 scratches. And Luigi's Mansion 3 is the best Luigi's Mansion game, and you can't tell me otherwise. Like there shouldn't even be a debate. And although I haven't played Dark Moon, but I'm pretty sure everyone who's played Dark Moon agrees that 3 is the best one anyway.
Absolutely, yeah.
Yeah, very quickly, I know we've got to wrap this up. I would say I love Pumpkin Jack. It's a new game, but it's so much fun. I don't know. Joey, have you played that game?
No, I've been meaning to, actually. So thanks for reminding me.
Oh, it's so good. I think it's on all the consoles now. It's like Medieval or that type of game that is actually good now with the camera control, the combat, just the aesthetic. And it just feels like if I want a Nightmare Before Christmas game in that engine, because I played some Nightmare Before Christmas games back in the day, and I'm like, they just don't hold up. But I mean, that would be perfect for it.
Absolutely. Yeah, I've been meaning to play Pumpkin Jack because it looks like a really fun platformer type. It's kind of a platformer, right?
Oh, yeah. It's a 3D platformer with combat elements. It's wonderful. You've got upgrades. You can change your costumes and things like that. It's really fun. And I think it's maybe $20-$30. So it was a game I loved last year, and it's available now for everybody. So
I know they released I don't know if they released it, but they are releasing a next-gen update for it. So that's exciting.
Yeah, it did not commit the cardinal sin of a Halloween game launching on October 31st, like Luigi's Mansion. Come on,
oh my
Luigi.
God! Why would you? Oh, that pissed me off.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I've got to finish Luigi's Mansion too, but I love that game too. So, Mark, do you have one?
Luigi's Mansion and Pumpkin Jack were on my list for sure. Sorry, I can't talk too much. The little guy's trying to calm down. But if anyone's watching the video, they see a very tired baby right now. But they're two of mine. I agree with what you guys were saying.
Well, with that, we should wrap up the podcast. Joey, I want to say thank you for joining. This was a pleasure. So glad you could join us. This was a lot of fun.
Yeah, it was a lot of fun. Thanks for having me. It was definitely fun talking about spooky games and Halloween games.
Absolutely. So before you leave, tell people where they can reach you and see all your cool stuff you do on the internet webs.
Well, you can reach me at the cell number 555. But yeah, you can find me on Twitter at Ferris Wheel Pro, and you can find my video works at Game Explain, youtube.com/Game Explain. I come out with news features a lot more than anything because, we got to cover the news on Game Explain. But I've been working on some features, especially some Metroid content I've worked on a lot these past few months. So definitely check those videos out if you are at all into Metroid and or Metroid Dread. And maybe I'll work on a Pumpkin Jack feature. I'm not sure because I really want to find an excuse to play that game for work,
Oh, that'd be fantastic. I hope you do. I can't remember if it's on Switch or not, but definitely.
It is.
If it totally is. Oh, definitely. Come on, Andre. Let him play Pumpkin Jack.
Yes.
All right. Well, Mark had to go take care of his little rugrat, but with that, we're going to say thank you, Joey. Thank you, Mark. And remember, everyone, it's always better to game together.
This podcast is part of the Secret Friends Unite podcasting network. Visit secretfriendsunite.com for more great shows, articles, news, reviews, and more. Secret Friends Unite podcasts are available on Apple, Google, Spotify, and other podcast services around the world. If you'd like to be part of the conversation, you can join us on Facebook or our new Discord server, or follow at Secret Friends U on Twitter. Please subscribe to Secret Friends Unite on YouTube and visit our merch store at tpublic.com. Just search Secret Friends Unite. Thanks for listening.